Hey everybody, and welcome to continuing coverage of YETICON 4, October 2025, Denver, Colorado, Black Sky Brewery. My name is Corey, member of the Rocky Mountain Yetis, host club of this event. Here for round 5, we have 2 undefeated players playing for a spot at the top table for round 6. On your left is Jeff Gold. Let's take a look at Jeff's deck. Jeff has a mono black build, a lot of kind of classic mono black staples. Notice we do not have the rack package though. This is more of a mono black creature aggro. We do have the disruption in the form of Hymn to Torok, of course, and the hippies, but we have 4 sinkholes main, Black Knights and Singer Vampires, and of course the beloved Pump Knights, Order of the Ebon Hand with the Buzzsaw artwork. Very good choice on that one, Jeff. Jeff can play with the full 4 strip mines in this one because removing some of those ungentlemanly cards gives you more slots for strip mines. So I don't even see a mind twist here on Jeff's build. Jeff being very gentlemanly. The sideboard does have weakness, a couple of Royal Assassins, Drain Life, 4 Glooms, and some Terrors. Jeff also rocking just the black power, the Mox Jet, and the Chaos Orb. So this is definitely a budget-friendly build. Very cool to see these kinds of builds make it to these top spots and these top tables, because Jeff a very good player as well. His opponent is David Merriam. David Merriam is playing one of his signature builds, the deck. Let's take a look at David's deck. David rocking a lot of signed cards in the deck as you're looking at the deck photo here. Significantly ungentlemanly here is David's deck, rocking the Mind Twist. I know David won't mind if I say that. Mind Twist, we've got the Time Walk, the Ancestral, looking to see if the Library of Alexandria is there. Yes, it is. So we do just have 1 strip mine for David. He's only allowed 1 in playing the 3 ungentlemanly cards as well. Sideboard for David has another copy of the Abyss. There's a Falling Star. Be curious to see if that comes into play here against Jeff's creature package. And then the Tormod's Crypt and a couple of Sarah Angels that can come in out of the sideboard. So let's take a look at this very interesting round 5 matchup and see who comes out on top, going undefeated into round 6. All right, let's kick it off with game number 1 here. Jeff on your left, David on your right. Good luck, players. Let's have a good round 5 matchup. Both players taking a look at opening hands. I believe it is Jeff on the play here. And it is. We're going to see a swamp from Jeff and say go. David on the deck is going to knock down let's see how he wants to get started off, a Mox Emerald. And a City of Brass. Okay, so shields a little bit down here for the deck. This would be a great time for Jeff to play a second Swamp and then maybe a Hymn to Torok and disrupt that hand from David. Black is a great start if you are the mono black player, and it's not the Hymn. It is a Sinkhole on that City of Brass. Also pretty good to try to keep the deck off of the double blue that we need for so many of those counter spells. And we're going to say go from Jeff. So Jeff off to a pretty nice start here on the deck. Dave plays the Plateau. David plays the Plateau. Plateau, a little bit extra red in this build of the deck. There's a Lightning Bolts and Fireball and a couple of the red cards in the 75 that we saw, like the Falling Star, which might be coming in out of the sideboard. All right, here is a strip mine and a quick strip mine on the Plateau. So far Jeff has taken care of all of David's mana. There is the Hymn. So after we take care of that one, now we're going to get the Hymn. So Jeff is really playing the hand out and disrupting David here. And he does take a couple cards. David will be down to 4. There's a Lightning Bolt and a Tundra. So there is another blue source in the graveyard. David draws and says go. So this is a golden opportunity right here. No land drop for David. Is just on a single green. And here is where Jeff's going to want to play out a threat, and he does. It is the Hypnotic Spectre. So David in a little bit of trouble here because there is no easy answer for that hippie, and here it's going to come, I think. We have another swamp, so all the land drops from Jeff, and then David's going to lose another card. All right, it was the Swords. Ooh, no white mana source to play it. And look at the Tundra in the graveyard there. Would have been nice for it. Okay, so Jeff's going to play a Black Knight and 2 more mana for the Ailey Pile. Okay, so the Ailey Pile is artifact. Pay 1 and tap it. Deals 2 direct damage. So David's going to play out a Lotus, so he will have access to his colors now. Crack the Lotus. And let's see what color he cracked it for. We're going to have, he's got a 4th mana if he needs it. Pump Fake on the Emerald. Looks like it was white because there's a Divine Offering on the pile. And because Jeff was tapped out, there's no life there. Or sorry, no response activation. David's going to gain some life from the Divine Offering and then a quick Balance. So Balance will take care of all of Jeff's lands, all of Jeff's creatures, all of Jeff's permanents are gone like the wind. Sorry, buddy. Balance is hanging out on the board there, just taunting, and David was David was discarding down to hand size. So he did have to. David did lose a couple of cards there to the Balance, but definitely a worthwhile trade. And then Balance correctly goes in after it's finished resolving. Very nicely done. Okay, now we've got a little land go section here. So Jeff has played, it looks like maybe 7 swamps so far out of the, I think, 22 in the deck. And Jeff's just ripping swamp, swamp, swamp. So that would have been a nice opportunity for Jeff to pull a threat while David's defenses were down just a little bit. There's a Strip Mine, and David doesn't even have a land to target it with. So it's just a mana source now. Jeff does have a card in hand and looking at what to do here. If it's a Singer Vampire, he could cast it and just at least get the Chaos Orb off the board, because I think that would be a snap activate for David. David's going to let it resolve, and then we will flip the orb on that vampire. Yeah, for Jeff's spot, that's a nice flip, David. For Jeff's spot, he needed that Chaos Orb off the board because Jeff's threats are all going to be creatures. They're all going to be permanents. So he would have to get that off the board one way or the other. Probably would have rather lost it to a smaller creature, but when you've got no cards in hand, and he's really full flood mode here now, it's hard to see that, but that is a reality of Magic. Sometimes you play out your gas, and then after he got the Balance, Jeff's really flooding out here, unfortunately. And David's got the Tome. Now, Jeff on his side, he does have a Strip Mine, and he does indicate he wants to take care of that plateau before David can have 4 mana to draw from the Jam Day Tome. Now, David does have the backup in the Underground Sea, so the Tome is online. Here comes a Hypnotic Spectre, eats a quick counterspell. So no card draw this time, but David happily will trade the counterspell for the Hypnotic Spectre. But if that book hangs around for too much longer, David's going to start to build that card advantage that the deck enjoys so much. Speaking of, there is one. And Dave will take another draw for turn. Jeff is hoping to maybe just rip running threats here. Might be what the only thing that Jeff could really do is running threats. Here's a Mana Drain on the Black Knight. That's a little bit tough. David's going to get 2 colorless in the main phase. Okay, here comes the 2 colorless for David. Let's see how he follows this up. All right, there goes the dice. I don't think he's taking Mana Burn. David kind of counting up some mana. We're going tap, 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 tap. And it's a Brain Geyser for David indicates for 4. So yeah, blue to cast it, and then 4 more for that. Yeah, that's a Sapphire in the Underground Sea. And then the 2 colorless, and then the 2 Moxes. So that's a tough one to be on the other side of. Okay, Jeff has another swamp, so he's in really full flood mode. Remember, he lost 4 swamps to the Balance, and I see 7 more. So that's a lot of swamps to see if you only have 22 swamps in the deck. Jeff with a nice choice of art on the swamps and addition. I do appreciate the matching unlimited edition swamps. Very nice choice on those, Jeff. Both players playing very pretty decks, very beautiful pieces of construction. Anyway, David is tutoring. There's a lot of good tutor targets in the deck. Some of them are called Ancestral Recall. Some of them have other names, but one of the better ones is called Ancestral Recall, of course. David says... David pointed to say go ahead, but maybe he was doing something else. So anyway, he will play the Ancestral Recall that he ripped off of the Demonic Tutor. And I like David's little upside-down flip of the Ancestral, so playing it with a little panache, flipping it off the top of your hand. There's another mana source. Okay, a Felwar Stone, so another mana source. So it's going to be pretty easy for David to take care of all of his mana needs. Here's a Time Walk for David, and he's going to go to untap with a zillion mana. Didn't get the extra card draw that turn, or did he get the extra card draw earlier? We're in David's Time Walk turn now, after untapping with another land drop and a Felwar Stone. Here's 4, 5, a Recall. So that'll be a Recall for 2 cards. David will discard a Jayemdae Tome and a Time Twister. Yeah, no reason to play the Time Twister now when you're this far ahead on card advantage. It's fun to see a piece of Power 9 just go to the graveyard. Anyway, David gets back the Ancestral Recall and the Mana Drain. And David's card advantage is starting to reach that uncountable area. Kind of lost track of how many extra cards David has drawn. Jeff does play a Chaos Orb, and I'm not sure if it's resolved. The players might have the Chaos Orb on the stack at this moment. David's taking a look. He's going to tap, and we're Ancestraling. So this may be in response to the Chaos Orb casting. If David's thinking about countering, nope, looks like David was just going to go to untap. So they did go to end step. David cast the Ancestral, and then they went down. I didn't capture any audio from the players on this one. I think it's always better to just get the video and not have the players self-conscious about having their voice on record. David's taking another draw. So Jeff's still at 20. David looking for one of the win cons. The Fireball is a main deck win con for David. There's a Vampire. Will it resolve? Yep, looks like it resolves. David goes to untap. There's a lot of jewelry on David's side. That's a pile of mana rocks right there. I think we're just missing the pearl, maybe. That's a Felwar Stone. Here is another Recall for 2. So tapping 5, Recall for 2. David's going to discard, looks like a City of Brass. Remember, Recall is, in case you know, you have to discard X cards, and then you can pull back X cards from your graveyard, and you got to pay X twice. And then it's a blue to cast it. So to discard and recur 2, you need to pay 5. All right, so David picks up a couple more pieces of power. And we're going to Jeff's turn. Jeff's going to have a chance to at least swing in with the Vampire. Okay, David says, go ahead, I'll take 4. No problem, buddy. David had gone back up from the Divine Offering. Okay, here's another tome reading. Jeff may have a response here. And Jeff says, Chaos Orb, pointing to the orb, seeing if we want to flip in response. He will activate the orb, and looks like David lets that resolve, so no Disenchant or Divine Offering in response to the orb activation. And David will go to untap. So no more book for David. He does have another Ancestral in hand. Here's a Mishra's Factory. There's a win con. There is a Strip Mine on Jeff's side, so it won't be a quick win con. And remember, Jeff does have a pretty large load of Strip Mines, thanks to the Gentleman's Club rules. And David, I think, goes to discard there at the end. It discards the Volcanic Island. All right, here's another hit from the Vampire. David's going to go down to, looks like 12. Okay, there's a Pump Knight, Order of the Ebon Hand. And a counterspell for that one. Now, David does have Swords to Plowshares, I believe, in the deck. We lost 1 to the Hypnotic Spectre earlier. There's an Ancestral Recall. So 3 more cards. He's cast that Ancestral Recall a few times now. That might be the third time David's cast it. All right, there's a library. So now we're really going to start ripping some cardboard. And at this point, David looking for his win condition. There is the Mirror Universe. All right. That can be a nice win con. I can't quite see in David's hand there. David almost flashed the hand. I don't know if I saw anything red in the hand. But the Fireball and Lightning Bolt are in the main as a nice quick way. Players could be talking here about the rulings on that card, the Mirror Universe. So Strip Mine attempts to get rid of the library. David will tap and draw in response. So it replaces itself, gets rid of the Strip Mine. The card advantage train rolls on for David. And I'm trying to see what David's life total is. It might be 12 there. David's going to discard a Strip Mine. Yeah, not much to do with the Strip Mine at this point in the game. So remember, David can only switch life totals during upkeep, during David's own upkeep. So David will take another hit. Let's see if I think he's going to go to 8. Yeah. So at the beginning of David's upkeep, and there's a swords on the vampire. So Jeff will go to 24, and David's at 8 right now. And so likely David in David's own upkeep is going to activate that universe. He'll take the 24 and put Jeff down at 8. And then Jeff will be he'll be a fireball away or a few factory hits away. There's a Mirror Universe. Switch the life totals. 24 for David, 8 for Jeff. And David has an active factory with a Strip Mine off the board. All right, there's another one. So David could just swing in for 3 here. Yep. That puts Jeff down to 5. And no fireball follow-up, though. So Jeff has another draw or 2 to do something. A lot of Strip Mines in Jeff's deck, but 2 factories is going to be tough to overcome. There's a Soul Ring for David. There's another factory. Okay, so light them all up, and there's 5 right there. So the way that worked is the one that just came into play with Summoning Sick couldn't attack. It pumped one of the other ones. The other 2 who were not Summoning Sick attacked, so one of them attacked for 2. The other one attacked for 3, and that is 5 skis. So Jeff, after a really great start, takes a balance, floods out a little bit, and then David is able to do the deck things and get himself back into a winning position for game number 1. Excellent game there, players. Let's head on over to game number 2. And here we go with game number 2. Jeff and David both taking a look at their opening hands. And let's see what kind of start we're going to have. Jeff is going to bottom a card. Oh, no. Jeff just puts the hand down. David taking a look at the control hand he's got. A little bit tricky to see. We do have some nice mood lighting here with a lamp on the side. Looked very cool in real life if you weren't there. See players kind of playing in a darkened bar with a vending machine on the player's right and a cute lamp on the player's lefts. Anyway, Jeff gets started with a Hymn to Torok. So we have the Swamp, the Jet, and the first turn Hymn. That is a critical card in the mono black deck. If you can get black on turn 1, especially against control player like this. Let's see what he got. We've got the Tome and a Swords. All right, pretty nice. Both signed, I think, too. The Tome and the Swords, both signed. Very, very nice. There is Mishra's Factory, Mox, Lotus, and go. I was wondering if we were going to see something huge there, but let's just play out. And David, of course, against the black opponent, that's what you do. We just play out. You would just play everything out because they're safer on the battlefield than in your hand against the black opponent, the mono black opponent. Black does have a little bit harder time dealing with artifacts. So Jeff looks like just passed. So Jeff kept on the turn 1 Hymn, I believe. David will untap. And are we in David's upkeep here? David hasn't drawn yet. to my eye anyway. Jeff looking at making a play. Okay, so David did. Okay, so David did go and pass. I just missed David's draw. So we're now in Jeff's next turn. Jeff's got 3 mana. David with maybe 2 in hand. Okay, there's a Chaos Orb. That is something that can handle artifacts. That is one of Jeff's only tools to deal with artifacts. And it looks like we're going to activate now. David will respond with a Disenchant. All right. And David puts the extra mana into the factory. You saw the tap there, so no mana burn. Mana burn was in effect for this tournament. David rips a Library of Alexandria with no cards in hand and swings for 2. That's a snap tap for colorless on that one. So David's going to need a draw 7 to get that back online. And now we'll see, though, if Jeff can take advantage of David being kind of shields down here. Now would be a great time for the old Hypnotic Spectre, because David is also off of white mana at the moment. So even if David does rip a Swords, he would have to rip a Swords and a white Source. Okay, there's a Pump Knight, protection from white, so Swords does nothing there. And it can get First Strike as a blocker now with just the single black. Okay, but David has a second factory, so he can attack for 3 at the moment. And decides not to. Going to keep everybody home. Yeah, a Hypnotic Spectre would be just about what Jeff needs now. That would be just about game over. All right, there's a Demonic Tutor. Good to go. Because David's still without a white source for the Swords. So even if he ripped a white source, it'd be a couple of draws before he could deal with a flyer. And Jeff taking a look at what he wants for his tutor target. There's a strip mine on 1 factory. David's going to, I believe he's going to activate, the other one. And I'm guessing Jeff probably stripped the one that is not summoning sick. I believe that's probably what's going on here, and they're activating in response. But I think the one that's left is summoning sick, and it doesn't matter now because David's untapped with it. But I think that was the optimal line that they were talking about, that they were looking for. And against the mono black opponent, it's pretty safe to leave an activated factory because Bolt and Swords and Disenchant are off the table. Ooh, there's an Ailey pile. That's actually pretty crucial against the factory because that can kill the factory at instant speed. For 2, I should say. Now the factory can give a pump, and there's ways around it, but not very profitable ways for David. So it looks like we're coming in and we're thinking about pumping or no pump, and he says go ahead. And just take 2. So keeping 2 mana up, I think just the mana up for the Ailey pile. That Ailey pile does take 1 mana to activate. So keeping that up to hold the factory back, if nothing else. Okay, now we've got kind of a critical mass of swamps, of black sources. 5 mana, and then are we going to see a vampire here? Tapping for 4. Okay, it's just a double pump. So we're attacking for 4. And keeping 1 up for the Ailey pile. That does keep an attacking factory back. David does have a white source now in the Tundra. And it looks like 1 or 2 cards in hand. So David has access to double blue and access to white now. The Knights are pro-white, so no Swords on that. David says no blocks, and we're going to pump how many times? Pump 3 times, so attacking for 5 is Jeff. David down to, I believe, 9, if my count is correct. David taking a look at the draws. There's a basic Plains. Not a good answer for that Knight. Jeff now has 6 black mana, so he could attack for 5 again. Or if he has something bigger like the Vampire, he could try to play out the Vampire for 5 and keep 1 home for the Holy Hand Grenade there. We do have an activation. David is maybe looking to just chump here. Because we have an activation and a block. David's going to make first strike. So pay 1 mana to make the knight first strike, or a 2/1 first strike. David will pump to 3, and then Jeff will pump to 3 attacking, 3 power first strike. And so it is just a chump. And there's a Hymn to Torok. Counterspell for the last card in hand. And David's in trouble. Him will take care of the counterspell for maybe a big follow-up next turn of another attacker. And that pile can also hit the player as well. So I think he's going to do that now. So David does go to 7. And he's got 5 attacking on the battlefield. Now that the factory's off, it was safer to use his mana. And now he can pump for all 3 times. So David being very mana efficient there. Way to find that line. And that is an attack for 5. So Jeff found the line of using the mana efficiently, and David says, let's go ahead and scoop him up and go to game 3 here. So the undefeated round 5 players here are going to go to a decisive game 3, and let's see what happens with David on the play. And here we go with the decisive, the decider, the rubber game, game 3, round 5. This is going to be for the top match. Let's see who's going to be advancing here at 5-0. David on his control package on the play. Jeff not enjoying the turn 1 him advantage here. Both players say land, go, land, go. Land, go from David. Let's see who the first aggressive player is. Jeff gets to black, black, and time to start playing out. Yep, never a bad time to start playing out. Black Knight. 2/2 first strike pro white, but it is not pro red. The lightning bolt does gobble up the Black Knight. David probably getting as many of those direct damage spells in from the sideboard as he can. Okay, David with 4 mana now, doing what the deck does. Building up mana advantage and then leveraging that later on into card advantage. Does Jeff have a follow-up here after the 1-for-1? Does Jeff have a third land drop? He does. He has the Strip Mine. Remember, Jeff playing with the full complement of Strip Mines and takes out the red source, and there's another Black Knight. Very good. Mana Drain will take care of the Black Knight. So David does pay a life there. David gets 2 mana in his next main phase. So remember, in our Gentleman's rules, for all of the ungentlemanly cards you take out of your deck, you can add an extra Strip Mine in. So the ungentlemanly cards are the big blue powerful things in the Library of Alexandria, your Ancestral, your Library, your Mind Twist. And Jeff not playing with those cards. I think maybe not even a Mind Twist. I'd have to look at his list again. But okay, David has a Felwar Stone and says, go ahead. Jeff, take a look. What will Jeff find? Another swamp. And there is the Pump Knight, the Order of the Ebon Hand. And it looks like David lets that one resolve. So now David's answers are going to be a lightning bolt to that one. The swords is no good. David will tap. Okay, 3 mana. Okay, there's a recall for 1. And I believe we're going to get back the lightning bolt. And the recall does get exiled. And does David want to leave the knight up for next turn? He'll play an Underground Sea and pass. So David will have to take a damage to bolt the Pump Knights when the time comes. Keeping the bolts in hand for now, I guess, just to force the attack and do it here, knowing that the bolt's going to be safe against the mono black opponent. David will take the damage now and bolt it. So still not too bad of an exchange for Jeff because David had to recall to get the bolt back, and David without a draw engine yet. So David kind of going down in card advantage to take care of that 1-for-1 knight. But now Jeff, as always, now that Jeff's on that 4 mana, Jeff's wanting to rip threats every turn. So you want your deck to just put the gas on the top every turn. I want action right now, because if you let the deck hang around for too many more turns, you're going to be in trouble. There's a Chaos Orb. David without too many juicy targets for that one right now, because he has enough mana to do whatever he wants. So you're maybe not thinking to get rid of a mana source unless you want to play something that's going to be vulnerable to a bolt and get rid of that city. Okay, David's going to tap 4 for the Jayemdae Tome and says go. So will we get a clean strike in? All right. Before we get there to the turn, we are going to activate the Chaos Orb on the book. That's a nice hit. Good flip, Jeff. Well done. And now, are we going to get in clean? We do get in clean. Okay, and David with no cards in hand. There's a vampire, so safe to play it down. Now we've got the pressure on. David without that, a good way to get card advantage, looking for maybe an Ancestral to try to get back in this game. We have a land drop. David, no cards in hand, and it's going to be 6 damage coming his way. There we go. And Jeff was able to deal with David's threats, David's chance to try to get card advantage. So Jeff with a very, very nice play on the tome. And David looks at the writing on the board and says, GG, buddy. So congratulations, Jeff. Jeff is going to be heading into the final round at 5-0. David looking at where that Ancestral was. Very nice match, gentlemen. It was a pleasure watching and commentating the match. If you've been watching these matches, next we have our final round. This one does not cut to a top 4, so it's just a straight rounds, and then we will crown our champion here after round 6 for YETICON 2025. Do keep an eye on the channel for that next video, and we will see you next time.